iTestify is about testifying of what Jesus Christ has done and can do in each of our lives. Through testimony of people just like you and through study of His Word, our prayer is to encourage each follower of Christ to be a light in this world. So let your light shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Matthew 5:16.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining us again on iTestify. Today we are interviewing Carlos Moretta, and you are the Director of Undergraduate Oral and Maxillofacial Surgery for the Loma Linda School of Dentistry, correct?
That is correct. It's a pretty new development, but yes.
Oh wow, that's awesome. We're so grateful to have you here.
Thank
I
you.
know that you came to tell us about your time that you volunteer and spend with Amen, right?
Yeah, Amen is an organization that I've been involved with for 6 or 7 years. Originally developed by a couple of physicians and some dentists in Cohutta Springs, Georgia. Just physicians and dentists that had the vision of how to make their practices a little more soul searching, trying to minister and witness to their patients more effectively than what they'd been doing. They wanted to take the skills that they had garnered in medical and dental school and the years of experience and just be more proactive in reaching souls for the kingdom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that because I didn't actually know what Amen was all about.
Yeah.
I've been there a few times, but
Amen actually stands for Adventist Medical Evangelism Network. And so yeah, medical evangelism is everything that we're about. We have yearly conferences that go from coast to coast. So we do an East Coast and then alternate with a West Coast conference. Yeah, and all we do is we come together and we try to figure out how to witness better in our practices with patients more effectively and follow God's, Christ's method alone, which worked effectively. He not only healed physically, but immediately the spiritual, they were in the spiritual realm. He had a captive audience and someone who would obey his promptings. And so we're trying to not mimic, but reproduce that effect with our patients today.
okay. And I believe you told me you're on the programming chair of the committee.
Yeah, so I was a previous board member for the organization or the ministry, and went through those years of leadership, and then the capacity that I'm in right now is I co-chair the programming committee. So every you have yearly conferences, like I said, on both coasts. And I help with the programming so that we can, provide inspirational messages and testimonies from physicians and dentists and what they're doing in their own practices to help just attendees. Yeah.
Awesome.
So, with your involvement in Amen, as well as what you do for a living, I know that you're extremely mission-minded. Can you tell us a little bit more about where that comes from?
Well, I grew up in the church. I always wondered when I would hear Mission Spotlight, stories of Papua New Guinea or Africa or South America. Never in my life did I imagine that I would be a missionary myself. And yet, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but God had put in my heart that I was going to do that work, that I was going to go abroad, and I was going to do work abroad for Him, and I was going to be a missionary. I had no idea how He was going to do it, but whatever intellect I could gather, I said, Lord, it's yours. You give me the opportunity, you open the doors, and I'll give it right back to you. And so yeah, I've had the opportunity, and in doing so, I've realized how important it is to have a worldview. Our church is a church that has a global influence, and I've only seen that by traveling. So it's important, I think, that we as Seventh-day Adventists or Christians, period, have a worldview. The Gospel Commission is a global commission. It's not just even though your community is important, I believe that God is asking us to go further, to push further for those of us who can, in one way or another, either going or supporting globally. But it is very important for us who can go to actually get a worldview. So I captured that early on in dental school, and had the opportunity to do many trips abroad, and just fell in love with realizing how few differences there are between us and so many other cultures.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a couple experiences maybe in particular that stand out that you'd?
Yeah, well, I brought some pictures, so I thought I'd share with you
We
guys.
love pictures.
Yeah, I know everybody loves pictures.
Well, Carlos, before you get to those pictures, maybe you could share with our guests who tuned in about how they could get involved in Amen if they wanted to.
So, okay.
And then you could show us some pictures about that.
Absolutely. So Amen, if you go to their website on amensda.org, you'll find the mission statement and the vision statement. And I'll just briefly go over the mission statement, which is to motivate, train, and equip Seventh-day Adventist physicians and dentists to team with pastors and members, uniting the church to restore Christ's ministry of healing in the world, hastening his return. So you see, it's not just about physicians and dentists, but it's more corporate. We want to get the church body involved. That's why you see a lot in many of our communities throughout the United States. You've seen us put together health fairs and essentially let the community there know that this church is here and it's here for you. And this is a place where you can come and find healing. Not just physical, but spiritual healing. We have examples of churches in, for instance, Nevada, who have started with a small group that had this vision with Amen, and have become, just with a clinic, a free clinic established, conducted, and then a series of evangelistic campaigns to, in a matter of a series of weeks and months, to a church of 60 to 70 individuals, and the wedge that was created by that free clinic was kind of the what started everything out. So we see that was Christ's example as well. That's how he reached the soul. It was the entering wedge was the medical ministry. So
I think it's important that you made mention that it's not exclusively for medical professionals, but that it is inclusive of anyone and everyone. We were working together as a church body in order to bring Christ's method.
I believe Ellen White once said or wrote that every Christian that's born into the kingdom is born in as a missionary. And so all of us need to see that we have ability, we have capabilities, simple things, ability to simple healing, or not healing, but health ministries, things that we can implement to help others, medical massage, things like that. You don't have to go through medical school. You don't have to go through dental school. Cooking classes. Mm-hmm. There's always something that you can do to be a benefit to someone else, to create an entering wedge. And so Amen has tried to rally dentists and physicians, and eventually all of the healthcare professionals that often exist in our churches, bring them all together, unite them with the pastors and with the lay folk, and come together as a team and try Christ's method alone, which was very effective in the Bible. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go ahead and get to some of these pictures. Again, before we go there, the conference this year for Amen is here in Indian Wells. So if you're in the area, Indian Wells is just outside of Palm Springs, or close to Palm Springs. And of course, you can go and register there online if you're interested in attending the conference. And again, it is for physicians and dentists or allied healthcare professionals or students as well. So you should keep that in mind. If you're a student, often there is a subsidy for students. All right, so one of the first trips I ever took was to Bangladesh when I was in residency for oral and maxillofacial surgery. Again, beautiful people, You can see there a young lady, a cute little girl at an orphanage that we visited. I was going to put her in my suitcase and bring her back, but I think Customs would have a problem with that. And again, just the little girls over there, they often take down their hair to, just a little short hair so that, for maintenance and of course to keep the little critters out. So my mother is a kindergarten teacher, so she taught me how to do piñatas, how to make piñatas from scratch. So I took all the accoutrements and things that I needed to make a piñata, and we introduced that to the little children there at the orphanage, and they absolutely loved it. I had to get out of the way because no kid could actually break this thing. I think I put it together with duct tape.
A little too well.
Yeah, a little too well. So I eventually had to get the pastor in that area to take a few whacks at it. So he was going nuts with that thing, and I had to get out of the way.
Did he fill it with dental floss?
No, I did not fill it with dental floss, although I should have. So here you see again the children enjoying and me putting together. It was kind of difficult to dry that thing out because it's so humid over there. But these are some of the patients that I saw over there. This gentleman was very, very persistent in me removing this lump from his head. And, after I prayed about it overnight, I said, Lord, I don't want to do any harm. We come abroad, we do these works. We're never there to deal with fallout. And so it's important that you're not doing things that are outside your scope. Thankfully, in oral and maxillofacial surgery, we get a lot of training in things pertaining in pathology pertaining to the head and neck. So I prayed about it one night. He came back the next day. He was very insistent. I'm glad he was, because we had the opportunity to help this gentleman out. And just under local anesthesia, this man handled the surgery just fine, and was so thankful. He came back the next day just hugging and thanking us the way they do. They touch their forehead, they touch your feet, and it was just a beautiful experience. Had the chance also to go to Peru, up in the mountains up there, to Haiti in 2010 or 11. When was the earthquake? I don't remember. 2 weeks after the earthquake. Again, a lot of need, deep need. I know it looks like this poor young lady is suffering, but she didn't feel a thing, I guarantee you. Yeah, and this was, again, another orphanage I visited in Haiti. Honduras, our van that we were traveling around with providing services got a flat. And so this is how you pump, in that particular instance, you pump a tire with a bike, with a bike pump. But we got to where we were going, thank God. The island of Roatan in Honduras. And of course, Malawi, had a chance to visit a friend of mine and his wife who were running the Lusaka Eye Hospital, and they also had a dental clinic there. But he took us to Malawi, and were able to provide some support, some care in Zambia. Again, never in my life did I imagine that God would take me to these countries to have these experiences, to hold the tail of a little lion cub with my heart in my mouth, because I thought Mom and Dad were going to come out of the bush and just eat me alive. And of course, riding elephants. So every time we go on these trips, we always take a day to visit and to meet with people and get to know. This was on my way to Nepal. My cab driver took me to one of the most beautiful mosques there in Abu Dhabi, and just a wonderful man. And he himself admitted we have different theologies. We believe in God, but we're brothers. You believe in God, I believe in God, and you can go down and debate as much as you want, he said, but you and I are brothers, is what he told me. Just a wonderful man. And these are some scenes from Nepal. Again, makes the mountains here in Loma Linda, or should I say the hills in Loma Linda here, really seem like hills. Had the opportunity to work on missionaries who were providing care there in Nepal, missionaries from India who had come, and they were providing care. They needed care themselves. So this little guy here, I took this picture because this little guy is actually 18 years old.
No way.
No.
No
Yeah,
way.
He's actually 18 years
You're
old.
kidding.
Completely normal kid, no delays, no nothing, just, but he makes me look like a giant,
Wow.
And so, yeah, just beautiful people in Nepal, wonderful food. This was the team that we went with. So it was, while we worked during the daytime, in the evening, we would have meetings in several different locations. And that was the team that we went with. Thailand, in Myanmar, I took the piñata to Thailand, and that was, again, a beautiful experience for the children there. And then Philippines, by far, has been one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had, because there, I'll tell you that it was an experience where we were combining evangelistic meetings with clinics during the daytime. And there was a young man, his name is Javid Harris. He's a physician in Ohio. And Javid was just he was in medical school. And he was slated to go on this trip to preach, right? And I was slated to go to provide care in the clinics during the daytime. And Javid came down with an illness, and he called me, said, Carlos, should I go on this? Should I go? And it was pretty serious. It was pretty serious. And Javid was like, should I go? I think God still wants me to go. I was like, Javid, I need you to pray a little bit more, because, you need to live you can do one of these things in the future, but you need to live to do it. So he was like, well, I'll do it. I'll stay if you go and preach for me in my location. And I was like, I've never done that before, but I did, and I went, and during the daytime I preached. During the daytime I actually worked in the clinics, and I would invite these people that I treated, these patients that I treated, to my evangelistic series in a small church plant just outside of San Pablo City in the Philippines. And this little church plant was in the woods in the middle of nowhere with a big banner, and in the front that had my face on it. And I thought that was just the craziest thing. But every night, 60 to 70 people, and again, the church plant was about 15, 16 folk, and they would invite the community, and about 60 to 70 people would come together there every night. And so I would work during the daytime, invite these attendees to come, or the patients to come to the evangelistic series. And what do you know, I'd never done that before. When I actually did my appeal for baptism, almost everyone came forward, and I just got so emotional. I started weeping in front of them, and I didn't want to, and I was like, I want you to make, solid, concrete decisions, not emotional decisions. Mm-hmm. So not all of them, of course, were ready for baptism, but this was at the end of 2 weeks. About 8 or 9 of them were, and so we had the ones that were ready, and I said, Lord, I know I'm not a pastor, and so I joined Pastor Joel, who was helping me, or was translating at my site. I said, can I be in the water with you while these souls are baptized? And of course, he said, sure. And so these precious souls came in, a whole family came in, with parents, kids. It was just the most beautiful experience. And so I saw firsthand how Christ's method alone can reach individuals when they are approached in this method, medical ministry, and then the gospel introduced to a captive audience. They respond to the benevolence and the goodness that's presented to them, and they make decisions. It was so beautiful, in fact, that as the very last person was getting out of the water, I was convicted at that moment. I was like, Lord, I was baptized when I was 10, and at that age, I was just going for a swim. I mean, honestly, that was my thought when I was like, wow, I get to get in that tub of water with the pastor? That's cool. And so, and the Lord really impressed on me as that last person came out of the water. I was like, I've really never made a public commitment or profession of my faith. And here I am preaching for 2 weeks. And I told the pastor, hey, Pastor, as he was leaving, he was like, I think you need to baptize me. And he looked at me, he was like, what have you done, my son? You know, and I said, I didn't do anything. I just think as an adult, I have never made this public, you know, profession of faith. I said, I would like to be baptized right now. And so I recommitted my life through baptism in 2009 in the Philippines, and that's why the Philippines still is very special to my heart to this day. I don't know where any of those people are that were baptized. I pray that the Lord is still, that they're still in the church, and that the Lord is still a meaningful part of their lives. But yeah, by far, after that, I was convicted that you can do humanitarian work, but medical missionary work is so much more meaningful and fulfilling when you're doing it for the Lord's kingdom. So that was my experience down in the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
And just to clarify, the only difference between humanitarian work and medical missionary work is the fact that you're including the spiritual gospel along with it.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I see it. I've done a lot of those as well because I think we should still do well. But in cases where you can provide both, it's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm. I did want to go over for our viewers as well what we mean when we talk about Christ's method alone, which is, you know, akin to what Reed is just clarifying between humanitarian work and medical missionary work. And you gave us a verse, Carlos. You gave us Matthew 4:23, which basically describes Christ's method alone. And I'll read it, and viewers, you can follow along in your own Bibles as well. And Jesus went about all Galilee, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom and healing all manner of sickness and all manner of disease among the people. So that verse that you gave us encompasses what Christ's method was when he was on this earth.
Absolutely.
Not only that, but we know that he mingled with people. And when you were talking about the fact that each missionary trip that you went to, you always spent a day, at least a day, just meeting the people, meeting the local people.
Yeah, and that's very important, again, because it enhances your worldview. You realize, you know, it's funny, I always say this, my wife is from Argentina, and they're known for a lot of things within the food realm, but one of the things that they're known for are empanadas, right? And so it's funny because I was in Mongolia last year on a mission trip, and what do you know, I go to a restaurant, and what I see on the menu? Empanadas. They call them something else, but they're empanadas. It's something inside a doughy, you know, pastry. And so I just find that that the more I travel, the more I find out we're all the same, you know. And the funny thing is that we all think we invented the thing, you know. Mongolians think this is very unique and indigenous to this, you know, and Argentines think the same thing. So we're all the same, I believe. There's just a few differences culturally, but we're all the same. So I wanted to share with you guys, of course, contact information for Amen. Amen is, of course, started by physicians and dentists, and I want to appeal to anyone who's a physician or a dentist or a physician, a medical student or a dental student, and we've recently started accepting programming within our programming at our conferences, optometrists and eye care professionals, specific programming within our conferences for them as well. But we get a lot of nurses, we get a lot of allied healthcare professionals that come to our conference as well, because the principles are still the same. You meet patients, how do I take our clinical conversation and turn it into something that could be spiritual? And by way of example, these conferences are fantastic because you learn how to minister. It's sometimes very awkward. I come from the dental background, and it's very, very easy as a physician to talk about medical, to talk about prayer, because patients come to the hospital and many of them think that there's a possibility they could lose life. But as a dentist. You go to the dentist, and you probably don't anticipate that you could lose life in a dental office, right? And if you do think, you should probably find a new dentist. My point is, my point is that that it's sometimes awkward to get on these themes. But I heard a testimony in one of our conferences in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. It was a radiologist, who had a practice, and it's very, very different, to witness to patients when they come right in, and then you focus a beam on them and you treat their cancer. But what he would do in his private office for consultation is he'd put a box inside or on top of the coffee table in his waiting room, and it said, "We recognize that this is a place of business, but we want you to know that your doctor is a praying doctor, and if there's anything that you would like for him to pray about, we want you to take the time to write it on this cue card, put it in the box, and we also want you to know that there's a Bible study that happens here in the office every Tuesday night." And that doctor showed pictures of a classroom full of individuals that would come to the baptism just by the ministry of that little box. He never once brought up religious themes in his practice, never with the patients. They brought it up because of the little box. And I thought, what a fantastic idea.
It's like a little advertisement if you want to talk about it.
Exactly, there it is.
And give them the opportunity.
Absolutely. So, for these and many other ideas, I would invite our viewers to contact. There's the contact for Amen Today. Contact Amen Today through the mail, through voice. You can also visit us if you're in the area of Lincoln, California. But the website is amensda.org. Amensda.org. God calls all of us to be missionaries, whether in Jerusalem, in Samaria, or worldwide. But I believe that the commission, the gospel commission, goes like that, peripherally, in concentric circles, outwardly to the world. And I believe all of us are called to be a part of that gospel commission.
Amen. So where are you going next?
I am scheduled to go back to Philippines with It Is Written. It Is Written is doing a pretty sizable campaign in the island of Palawan. I said that right? This July, and they're also starting their very first Philippines Amen chapter, or Amen Philippines. And I'm going to go speak there in June, and then July, the It Is Written campaign.
Awesome. And I'll put in a little plug too. I've been to the last event in Indian Wells, and even though I'm an accountant by trade, my wife's a medical student, and even myself, I went away definitely spiritually enriched by that. So if you have a chance to make it out to that, definitely do it.
Yeah. Look forward to seeing all of you there.
Yeah.
Be there.
Yes.
I'd like to thank our viewers for tuning in and getting a chance to hear Carlos Moretta share about the importance of medical missionary work. And we also encourage you to check out Amen. If you're a medical professional or just someone interested in the medical profession, this would be a great opportunity to get information and to get involved. We also want to thank you for your prayers and your financial support of the ministry. Please tune into LLBN.tv if you'd like to participate in financially supporting this ministry. And thank you very much.